Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the second day of our Women in Engineering Days. And this is the first online edition. And we're very happy that you guys are all here. My name is Lieke and this is Mariam. And we are your hosts of today. Currently, we're both located in Amsterdam. Slightly sunny over here, and we're actually pretty curious where you guys are. So please let us know in the comment box which city or country are you currently located.
Curious. There is a 20-second delay between the streaming and the YouTube. Okay, we will see that in a bit. We organized this event because we have talented engineers working for ING, and we, who would love to share their story with you. The upcoming 3 days, so today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, you can enjoy inspirational talks about technical topics, but also non-technical topics, about personal stories. About people who, growth in any way within ING and in their personal life. And today we have two talks. The one is starting in a few minutes, 11:30, and the other one will start at 12:30. The one that I'm announcing in a few minutes is about site reliability, engineering, and the second one is diversity at work.
Yes, and we already see that we have some people from the Netherlands, Amsterdam, Houten, but also a bit further away from Poland and London. Very nice to have you all here. I will start with some practical information. Every talk is 45 minutes, including a Q&A at the end of the talk. And if you have any questions, please use the comment box on the right side. And, well, be aware that there's a 20-second delay between the live streaming and YouTube. And we have a small break in between the two talks.
Yeah. And now it's time that we would like to hand over to the screen to Janna Brummel. She will introduce herself. But good to know first, a fun fact about Janna is that she's crazy about traveling, photography. And last weekend, I saw this beautiful tea collection. So Janna, tell me more about that after the talk, because I love tea. So to be continued. Janna.
Yes.
Take it away.
Here. Well, hi all. Feels very weird to talk into a void and not having interaction with people, but I guess that's normal Corona life for conferences now. So I will be discussing site reliability engineering within ING. My Twitter handle is on this page. I don't do a lot with it, but if you want to reach me, you can. So a little bit about me. I am Janna. I'm 31 years old. Since 2 days, I actually also live in Amsterdam officially with my boyfriend. Here it's not so sunny. So I guess Lieke and Mariam are in a different part of town. Like Mariam said, I enjoy traveling. I like to cook. I'm crazy about trains, hence the picture. I enjoy photography, reading, drag queens, architecture, feminism, all kinds of things. I've been at ING since 2012. I actually started as a dev engineer in the credit cards and debit cards domains. Then I became business manager, which is to our CIO, which means that I did some IT strategy work and focused on our engineering culture. After which I switched to sort of our management track. So for the past 4 years, I've been acting as a chapter lead, which means that I spend 40% of my time as HR responsible manager type person, and 60% of my time as part of a squad, as a delivery squad. And for me, that's site reliability engineering. But I've also been chapter lead to product owners and project managers. If you are interested in how to define your career path as a woman in tech or whether management is something that you might like, feel free to contact me. I'm open to discussing those topics. I think it's good to know that while I'm doing the presentation, I cannot see the comments, so I will just broadcast away, and then at the end I can answer questions or read the suggestions. So, site reliability engineering. Why do we need it? So these figures are a bit older, but I do think they represent what's still happening within ING. We are a bank, and I think not everyone knows that as a bank, there's actually demands from regulators like the European Central Bank or the Dutch National Bank about targets we have to meet for our availability. These targets are at, well, in the SRE world, you usually express them in percentages, but we are obliged to reach a 99.88% target by our regulator during prime time, which is from 6:30 in the morning till 1 at night. These graphs represent availability of our internet banking and mobile banking services, specifically the journey of a customer doing a simple payment. As you can see, we, in 2018 at least, we did not reach those targets fully. But what's quite interesting about those targets is that they talk about a prime time window. And if you look at logins per second for mobile banking, which can go up to 120 logins during like the normal workday, we actually see, that there's still customers outside of that window that our regulator has defined some rules for. Because at 4 at night, there's still 10 logins a second. So we could argue that our customers expect something different from what our regulators demand. And our customers are even more strict. They don't care about a prime time. They care about 24 hours a day, because it would suck if you cannot pay your bill at the bar at night, even though in the Netherlands, due to Corona, that's not an option anymore. But still, say in our former life, you would be at the bar and wanting to close your tab at 2 in the morning, you still want your payment services to work. Also, what we see with regards to customer expectations with availability is that because other services like Google or Netflix are so available, customers start to expect that of their banking services as well. So our bar has been raised pretty high. So site reliability engineering tries to offer a solution to these types of problems. But what is it? So it's sort of a way of working that was started at Google. And the initiator of this movement describes it as being what happens when you ask a software engineer to design an operations function. It's engineering focused on operations and reliability. It has a heavy focus on automation. And you basically try to solve all your stability, reliability issues via software development. And I will, during my talk, I will go into it a bit further, or a lot further, so it might become even more clear. Google actually published a book on the topic, which you can find online for free. It's a really nice book to read, and it covers all things site reliability engineering. Site reliability engineering is usually about topics as monitoring, incident management, learning from incidents, release procedures, testing procedures, capacity management, topics like that. So in this talk, I would like to explain how we do site reliability engineering within ING, and then specifically in my situation, which is site reliability engineering within tech market leaders, which is a fancy organization name that won't strike you as, now I know what that means. It basically means that I do SRE for the Netherlands and Belgium in a bit, Belgium also a bit. But the main focus for my team is on the Netherlands, and it's on the retail side of banking. So normal customers like you and me, and not big businesses. So in this talk, I will cover the people side of SRE, the process side, and the technology side, and explain how we tackle this topic. So, people. Where is the team located? So within ING, we have a biz DevOps way of working, which means that we have all these delivery squads, which consists of dev engineers, ops engineers, and marketeers or product managers or someone from like the business side. These squads are all organized in tribes, and tribes are basically departments centered around a topic, usually focused on customer functionality. For example, we have a mortgages tribe, a securities tribe, a payments tribe. Any big category in banking has a tribe, and each tribe has a tribe lead, and all squads have product owners. The intention within ING is that each squad is responsible for building and running their software. We have autonomous teams, and they should be able to do everything themselves. My squad is part of a tribe that's only focused on engineering productivity, as it were, or IT for IT. So we try to help all those other tribes while doing site reliability engineering. And you could call us like a horizontal squad. So we, our goal is to support everyone in the organization. So that's 1,700 engineers across 340 squads. This is actually my team. These photos were, of course, taken in a different time. And one of the faces has changed, 2 others joined. So right now we have 9 engineers. There's 2 more joining soon. We have 1 product owner, 1 chapter lead, that's me. And the people in the team have a lot of experience with engineering within ING. So they know the teams that we have to support very well. And most of them have actual experience with being on call. So they know what happens when services break and what engineers need to actually fix something within ING. So if some of you are already familiar a bit with SRE, then you might know that hiring for hiring in site reliability engineering is quite difficult because you need people that are quite specialized. So I figured it would be nice for me to share with you what we actually look for when hiring someone. So for me, it's most important that someone is super passionate about reliability, solving problems, DevOps. So with that, I mean that someone actually believes in you build it, you run it, and the open source. So the person has to believe in wanting to create cool code together, in using community to create better code, stuff like that. It needs to be a person who is okay with failure. Failure is a big part inside reliability engineering. So it needs to be okay for teams to make mistakes, stuff breaks, and you need to tackle any failure as an opportunity to learn from that failure. We actually look for people who are insensitive to hierarchy. As SREs, we have to help a lot of teams, and we have to deal a lot with senior management. And you basically have to defend what you stand for, because we are the reliability experts. So we shouldn't be scared away because some other job role or title. We just want to focus on doing what's right. Any person who joins your team always has to be willing to teach and advise engineers about reliability. Teaching can be done in different ways. So not all engineers want to do a talk like this or want to stand in front of a big group, but they can still use their knowledge and multiply it different ways. So one of the engineers in my team has actually created an online workshop for people to follow. but it's very important to help the other engineers, not only via technology, but also via teaching. It helps if someone is experienced in on-call duties and knows the tricks of the trade and what's needed. And now comes only the first technology demand. I want someone to have experience with at least one language in our stack. If the person is smart enough, I believe the person can learn any language. But if there's not some sort of drive for reliability in that person, that's more difficult to put in. And also important, the person still has to be excited to work with us after meeting like half our team. And we always try to set realistic job expectations. It could be anything from like back when we were in office, could be anything like sharing what a day in the office is actually like, because we have an open floor space office. So that's sometimes difficult for people to concentrate. Or in these types, it could mean that I'm very clear on what our life in the office is right now, basically non-existent. Stuff like that, but we try to make sure that there's a match both ways. So how did we start and why did we actually start? Back in the day, which is like 4 or 5 years ago, there used to be a small team of ops engineers, and they were on call for our online channels. So that's mobile banking and internet banking. And they were part of different squads working on those topics, but they were like a virtual squad or like an extra layer who was on call for those channels to support all engineers. These engineers were the ones who would be called at night. They would only do shifts of 2 days each because the on-call responsibility was quite a lot, and it would lead to sleep deprivation. So they would be called again and again, also for reoccurring incidents, but they could not structurally improve the service reliability because of the ownership for services that lies with the DevOps teams. So that actually sucks if you have to wake up because someone else doesn't fix their mistakes, as it were. So this model was not sustainable. So we wanted to transfer like the full run ownership to the DevOps teams. We started a pilot with site reliability engineering. So that's actually quite nice. So if you still want to introduce site reliability engineering in your organization, it might always be a good idea to run a pilot. This was supported by senior management to do this, to see if we could reinvent this team of engineers. About half of them made it into the new team, half didn't. Because you always also have to check if someone is actually has the capacity to fulfill the job of an SRE. So the team was transformed, there was a new purpose, and this team mostly spent time on deciding on their way of working, roadmap, and what model they would use. They also did their previous job of the on-call during the pilot, which made them realize that if they wanted to improve things structurally, they really needed to drop that responsibility. So they gained that experience, shared a proposal to senior management, and then SRE was launched. So I was talking about picking an SRE model. So what we see is that there's usually 3 organizational models. The first is where, so product engineering is basically the teams delivering customer functionality. There's a model where you have teams working on product engineering and teams working on site reliability engineering, and they share the service ownership. So this model is basically dev versus ops, where the SREs are on call and do all operations, and the product engineering teams only focus on dev work. That model is used at Google. Well, sort of, mostly that, it's of course a bit shortly summarized, but that model is used at Google. Then we have a second model where SREs are distributed and embedded in product engineering teams. Here Here, the service ownership is also shared between SRE and product engineering. This model is used at Facebook. This just means that this sort of means that you have an expert reliability engineer in each team, or you have multiple in one team. Could go both ways. Not all teams have an SRE, but this reminds most of DevOps, where the SRE can take the role of the ops engineer, sort of. Then we have a last model, which means that service ownership is with product engineering. So the product engineering works according to the DevOps way of working, and the SRE team is like a siloed team next to it, which consults and does engineering, creates tools, and tries to improve reliability that way. So the first model is much more hands-on, and with the last model being more of an engineering team that's really focused on the structural improvements that can apply to all engineers in the organization. And we chose the latter. And this one is also the model that's implemented in Netflix. So if you want to pick your organizational model that could work for you, you can take some things into consideration. The first, what your current way of working is. So if you currently have a DevOps way of working, the first model doesn't really automatically fit. It also depends on your organization size, because sometimes it's very hard to find that many SREs, stuff like that. So there's all kinds of considerations, and if you want to know more, you can contact me. So what do we actually work on? Because now it's about to get interesting. So this is the service reliability hierarchy pyramid, and it represents a hierarchy of needs focused on reliability related topics. The bottom layer is monitoring, because monitoring is always the foundation of anything reliability. Why is that? Because if you don't know if your service is running or not, which the monitoring will tell you, this means that monitoring could also be a customer calling you. Then you cannot improve the other items. So after monitoring comes incident response, where you can improve the way of working when you have to respond to an incident. This could be anything related to alerting or chat ops, stuff like that. A big part of any SRE life is what they call post-mortem. So it's or root cause analysis. It's the investigation of what has happened during an outage, which can result to learnings and help you improve your system. And then you move on to improving your testing and release procedures. And my team works on like the bottom 4 layers. We spend a lot of time on the monitoring layer, because that was not properly in place within ING. And that's what our main focus still is today. So more specifically, what do? We spend about 80% of our time on engineering. Within SRE, it's general practice to spend at least 50. We deliver something called the reliability toolkit. This is a white box monitoring and alerting stack, and I will elaborate on that stack. And we also work on a secure container platform with a service mesh. So our SRE team is basically split into like 2 subdivisions. We spend a lot of time spreading our love for the topic and spreading best practices. This could mean doing outreach to engineers for consulting, educating. So we've created some training materials. What we don't do, the on-call for product engineering is mentioned here since like a big thing in Google SREs. And we don't work on SRE topics already covered by other teams in our organization. We are not the only SRE team, but we don't want to do double work. So we try to see where we can fill the gaps and where we can fill the needs. So like I said, outreach and education. And I think what we do in this domain could apply to other IT or platform teams as well. So we try to close our feedback loop for our product. So we try to interview engineers that use our products. see how they are using it by looking at our metrics, but keeping in touch personally mostly. And we serve as reliability advocates, so we do not only visit teams in the form of our solely representing our squad, but we also represent our other teams working on reliability and representing their tooling. Like I said, we do education. We have a monthly onboarding for new engineers, where we teach 1 hour on monitoring each month, but we also give workshops on Prometheus, which is the monitoring tool that's part of the reliability toolkit. And we facilitate knowledge sharing as much as we can. So we have a cross-domain SRE guild, so all the other SRE teams join and we share knowledge. We do large-scale demo sessions to promote our team and to promote our services. Those are really well received. We help people via chat, via internet. We have a user community, and we often organize, well, we used to organize report outs from conferences. SRE is a big topic at conferences, but we try to, whenever a colleague used to go to a conference, we would just encourage him or her to do a report out of their learnings from the conference so that everyone benefits from someone having gone somewhere. So we still need to figure out how we do this in the Corona times. So this is also an old picture, but this is what happens virtually, but this is a more interesting picture. So our demos would become so big that no one could pass through the hallway anymore. Usually when we do our digital demo, there's even more people joining. So we switched to, when we were still in office, we switched to adding the digital source as well. And now it's only digital, but we have like 60 people per demo. For ING standards, that's a lot. And there's always a lot of interaction in our chat, so that's nice. We have a couple principles we adhere to. So we try to work with industry standards as much as we can. Why? They're industry standards for a reason usually, but it really helps me as a manager in hiring and training people. So since we use Prometheus and not some homegrown monitoring tool, it's much easier for me to find the right engineers to work on our product. We try to work with open source products and practices for a similar reason, but also because you can leverage the engineering productivity of like a larger group, because anyone can help and contribute to your code. So we recently, well, we're like on the verge of open sourcing our Prometheus training materials, which are in Katakota, which I'm very excited about, so that anyone can follow a tutorial online and change the contents of that tutorial as well. And we try to automate toil wherever and whenever we can. So toil is an SRE word. It's for manual repetitive work. So if we have to do things by hand too often, we try to automate it. So we save time. So for the tech part, why did we develop this toolkit that is our largest product? We saw within tech market leaders that the mean time to prepare that we had was too long, and we waste a lot of time finding incident owners. So if we have a major incident, it used to take, and it still takes a lot of time, it used to take like 70 minutes before the right engineer was found that could actually start and get to work, because there was no direct alerting to those teams. It all went via this master control room, so it's sort of what you call, I don't know the word anymore for it. Like this, there's this master control room where there's engineers who actually monitor the health of our ING systems, and engineers can send alerts to that place, and that place will then call you or find the right incident owner. But because there's a person in between, basically a man in the middle, it can take a lot of time. And we also have very large application chains. So if a person wants to do a payment, it sometimes has to cross boundaries of 30 teams, which can make it difficult to find the right spot where something broke. There was a lack of insight into application health for teams. They didn't always know the availability of their own application. And because we have a lot of technology diversity within ING, so we basically have anything from COBOL to Java to Go to TIBCO to vendor stuff, it can be very difficult to implement a monitoring tool. So we needed something that could help with that as well. So our reliability toolkit is based on Prometheus. Prometheus is an open source time series database. It pulls metrics from applications. With Grafana, which is a dashboarding tool, you can visualize those metrics. Prometheus has a visualization tool, but it's not nearly as good as Grafana, and Grafana is, once again, an industry standard. Prometheus has an alert manager, which is why we wanted to use it as well, because this way we can send alerts via email, SMS, and chat ops to teams directly. And we created our own component, which is called the model builder, which does anomaly detection. So we provision this to teams. We create a joint configuration where we already template a lot of things. For the teams, we maintain and update the binaries of Prometheus, of Grafana, of anything that's in the pack. And we deliver this as a toolkit over 3 environments. So test, acceptance, production. But we remain responsible for the patching. So we try to take away the extra overhead work for teams as much as we can. So it becomes super easy for them to start using monitoring. Like almost no barrier at all. And we also deliver client libraries. So metrics can actually be scraped from servers. So that's client libraries that are part of our engineering frameworks within ING. So we went through a couple of iterations. This was our first one. So we learned that we need to make it, like I said, as easy as possible for teams to use our tool, because they don't have a lot of time to spend on the topic of monitoring. And we want them to focus on like how they should implement their queries over how they should work with a pipeline. So this is what we started with. And a lot of steps would have to be done by the DevOps teams. But through time, we changed to a version where a team only has to update their configuration, and then everything is picked up automatically and they hardly have to do anything. So ease of use has really helped us in our user adoption, because we've seen a number of teams increasing, but only after we made this change in way of working. So what else did we do to increase and improve usage? Like I said, there's client libraries in our most important engineering frameworks. This really helps. So if a person develops a normal ING API, you already have like the monitoring included, and you only need to onboard to us, but there's already metrics there. We take care of the feedback loop that I mentioned. We do this in person or with tooling. We educate people, and we try to template team dashboards as much as we can. And we have a couple of dashboards that we make accessible to everyone, so they can easily see the power of our tooling and reuse dashboards that we made. So we try to make it super easy to onboard and use our reliability toolkit. We're now at 200 onboarded teams. We are very proud of this. Took a while, but these teams still need to make sure that their application can actually be scraped by this tool Prometheus. So how can we reach all teams? So this is what we're working on now with the other SRE squad, is a service mesh. So why would you want to use a service mesh? Please Google it if you're not familiar, because it's a super cool technology. With a service mesh, you basically add a sidecar to your container, and in this sidecar you can put all kinds of nifty things, like help with monitoring. And the sidecar, you can inject things in the sidecar without having to redeploy. So you could have an implementation of TLS in the sidecar. You could upgrade the version, but it's not the case that every team has to redeploy it to use it. So the service mesh can actually help you to get new updated functionality to applications fast, like a new version of Prometheus. But in this sidecar, you can also add all your monitoring. So you can add metrics, logs, distributed traces, resilience patterns. So you can easily improve observability. Service mesh can do a lot of things with your network and traffic. So you could also introduce and expand topics like A/B testing, canary releasing, stage rollouts, things that are further up the service reliability hierarchy. And another change is that engineers only need to worry about security at the application level. Because you can, with a service mesh, you are more likely to also use containers. These containers are immutable, so they're more safe. You can implement all kinds of security policies. Within ING, we have a lot of risk documentation work, and you could also kill that by enforcing stuff via infra as code. So this is just a sneak preview of what we're working on. There is an application running in our production subscription that's using it, but we need the formal go-ahead to take it to public cloud still. But if you're interested in these types of topics, please dive into the service mesh topic, because it's quite interesting, but it's just too big to cover in like a talk on SRE. So even though we're super proud of our reliability toolkit, we're actually going to transfer it to a global tribe. Why? Because we're a very small team, and the overhead of having 200 teams use our tool is becoming bigger and bigger, and we want to focus on new SRE topics. So we would love to create incident response bots or reliability bots that could help people out in their Microsoft Teams. And we want to onboard more teams to our container platform and reliably move them to public cloud. So that's the service mesh part. We just finished a migration to a new version of our stack, which is focused more on containers. And that uses less resources, because we are now the biggest infrastructure consumer of the Netherlands, which costs a lot of money. So we've been automating things a lot, and we'll keep doing that. So takeaways. If you want to start doing SRE, first of all, doing SRE is possible within a bank. And if you want to start doing site reliability engineering, it might be good to hire SREs from your product engineering domain, because they have a lot of knowledge and network within the organization. Mindset is super important. If you're not sure if it would work for you, start with a pilot. Pick an organizational model that fits your organization. Senior management support and understanding has been very helpful to us. And don't forget to spend time on education and reaching out to engineers. If you develop tooling, like any tooling or platform tooling for your organization, focus on scalability and ease of use. And don't be afraid of redesigning like we did with our pipeline if it makes your users happier and makes it more easy to use. So that's it from my side. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can actually see things. So I'm going to see if I can see some questions in a chat.
Thank you, Janna, for your story. Yeah. Very interesting. There are a couple of questions, but I think you already answered them during your talk.
I see that. I see that Hans. It was indeed knock. that was the word. So monitoring tools. There's more tools within ING. We also use the Elk stack. We use Rigor for black box monitoring, and we have an in-house distributed trace monitoring tool. Indeed, the question from Nadia I answered. Which public cloud? Within ING, there's going to be a multi-cloud approach, and we've been working on Azure. But ING is very big. But for the Netherlands, it seems to be that Azure and Google are going to be the ones we're going to try to aim for. And if you're interested in the Katacoda course, send me a message and I can share the URL. How do your tools relate to the Merak framework? So this is a very ING specific question. It's integrated in the Merak framework. So if you use Merak, it's very easy to onboard and start your metric monitoring.
Okay. Thank you, Janna.
You're welcome.
Very clear story. Yeah, this talk is recorded, so you can watch it back on YouTube on our channel. And we have a short break now. Our second talk will start at 12:30, and that will be about diversity at work. So hopefully I see you guys all back in 15 minutes. And thanks again, Janna. Oh, Marianne, you are muted.
I'm so sorry. Welcome back for the ones who just joined us. Great to have you here. Welcome to our first edition, online edition of the Women in Engineering Days. This is day 2, and we have 2 more days to go, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. We are Mariam and Lika, and we are your hosts of today. And before we go further, some practical information. The talk will take about 45 minutes, including a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comment box on the right, and be aware that there is a 20 seconds delay between the live streaming and YouTube. Enjoy.
Yes. And we are ready to introduce our talk for today, and that is diversity at work. And we have 4 colleagues with us here. It's Fi, Vikram, Kate, and Dominique. And you can expect a very interactive session with discussions as well. So hope you guys are all energized and ready for it. So Fi, it's time to shine now. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariam and Linka. Let's start. Oh, the other way around. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Nguyen. It's a great honor to be in a Women in Engineering Days today. Great honor first. Today, we would like to share our stories about Team 1. How do you see previously in our slide, we are a very diverse team. We have people from very different countries, very different backgrounds. We are very unique in many ways. And today, we would like to share with you our stories, what makes it unique, what makes it who we are, and how to make it work in a team so diverse as our team. So I hope you enjoy the talk. For the agenda today, we would talk briefly about our stories for the 4 presenters, how it worked first, and a little bit about our experience. Then we would get a break for Q&A. And then later on, we would talk about our learning to awareness. And finally, we would end up with some tips and tricks for you guys to take away and to apply in your own organization. And in the end, we will have another session of Q&A. There's a 20-second delay in between. So please put your question and comment in the chat, and we would address them later on during our Q&A sessions. All right, so let's start with me. So who I am. My name is Nguyen. I'm one of the senior engineers in ING, working in Team 1. Well, I am originally from Vietnam. It's a very beautiful country. I wish you can go there before Corona times. After graduating university, normally in my country, we would start working. And for me, I would find a good man, get married and have a lot of children. Oh, actually, 2 now is a norm. So that's what happened for most of my female classmates back then. Instead, I chose a different way. I came to Netherlands for my master. Then I started working and I really fell in love with the country here. I still need to get used to Dutch food, if there's any Dutch food actually. But yeah, it's really feeling like home now. On my graduation day here at Delft, my professor told me that I'm more frank than most of the students he's been working with. So not quite sure if that's a compliment, but it does say something about my journey of integration into the Dutch culture. So here I am, after 8 years, I'm still not married. I don't have children yet. And every time I call my family, my grandmother back home, I would explain to her why this is the case and please wait for a couple more years. So it's still challenging here as well. I do, however, adopted a cat this year, just before Corona, so it works very well. So if you're feeling down at home, get a pet. Now is a high time. You're probably wondering how is it working in the Netherlands as an expat like me? Well, it's pretty tough at first. First of all, because I don't speak the language. Yeah, I mean, one of the team that I work with, there was 90% male Dutch. So they're very typical, you know, they wake up at 9, they be in the office at 9:45, 10 o'clock, leave at 6, 7. And like to talk about football, about computer games, which I don't know so much about, and honestly also don't feel like contributing as well. And my Dutch was very bad. It cost me a lot of energy just to be able to follow the conversation and try to be a part of the group. But often than what I'm just falling off. And then when I need something, I have to ask in English. And of course, I speak in English, but still not 100%. So it is exhausting. And I think most of you who are experts, who work here or live here could relate to. Now, fun fact, in my current team, we have people from a lot of countries, but Dutch is not the majority. Actually, it's India. So surprisingly twist. So we have people from the Netherlands, from Belarus, from India, from Vietnam, it's me, and from Germany. And we started to speak Hindi. Well, 50% of us started to speak Hindi. And then, yeah, at some point was feeling a bit uncomfortable for many of us because we don't speak the language and we don't know what they're talking about and it doesn't sound even familiar to Dutch. So to help us communicate better, we agreed that we would speak only one language. This is English. And also during lunch, during coffee break, before and after or during team hangout. This is actually working quite well for me. And I believe also for my team. So I personally felt quite connected and involved as part of a group in a formal and also informal way. Let me share another story with you. I've been a developer for 6 years in total. I've been to 7 teams. And 6 out of 7 teams, I am always the only female developer in the team. So it sounds very familiar, I guess. I started as a trainee, a batch of 10, and there was more female than male. But after the years, most of them move to business roles. They become managers, or they are moving out of ING, and just 1 or 2 are still hardcore developer like me. I was always wondering, why don't we get more female engineers, and maybe something I could do to help. Well, at the current team, surprisingly, we have 50-50%. I really have to say great jobs to my managers. I hope he's listening. I realize it is really not difficult to find and to hire a good female engineer. We do get, honestly, less CV when we do recruitment. But when I was involved in some interviewing session, what I can see that you could make the environment more welcoming for the interviewee, for the candidate. For example, if the candidate is a female, then we would include also another female engineer to talk about how it feels to work at the team. And maybe we can share some stuff which is more special for women, like, you have a child, you have childcare problem and such. Or if the candidate is someone who's an LGBT community, then we probably send Dominique and other people. So just to make them feel welcome, and then make them feel like, okay, they can be included in our team. And yeah, there's some familiarity in that. Okay, so that is my 2 stories. Thank you for listening, and I would like to pass the mic on to my colleague Dominique.
Yeah, thanks, V, for sharing your story. Hi, I'm Dominique Woltil-De. I'm 36 years old, and I was born and raised in Haarlem, a town near Amsterdam. I lived there with my parents and my little brother. We went to a public school, never went to church, and our summer holidays were spent on a camping trip to France each year. So I stayed in Haarlem during my studies, which I did at the University of Amsterdam. And after uni, I started to work at a public broadcasting company as a web editor and project manager, after which I started to work at ING. Currently, I'm married and I live in Utrecht with our 2 kids and 2 cats. We own a house, a car, a few bikes, of course, and a trampoline in the backyard. I love to go snowboarding in the winter times. And this year, so far, has been the first one in over 20 years where I haven't been able to visit a concert or festival once. So you might ask what my contribution is to this diversity story. Because I sound pretty boring, right? Like a real Dutchie? Especially when you hear these beautiful stories of my colleagues. But this is actually what I would like to contribute today, is that there's always more to tell. Because everybody has a story. So let me finish mine and add some details. So my spouse is not a man, but a woman. And my kids are not my biological kids, but the beautiful girls my wife and her ex got before our relationship, making me a stepmom and a co-parent. Or the fact that I was born with spina bifida. Luckily, the defect was minor and repaired, but I still have to live with the rather painful consequences of having 6 very heavy back surgeries during my lifetime. And there's always the risk of more to come. Or the fact that I was the first one in my family to go to university to study, making me a pioneer student. So here I am, a 36-year-old married cat lady, a proud stepmom of 2, a pioneer student with a disability. And all of a sudden, I have these beautiful diversity labels. So sometimes people take you at face value, and they love putting you in a certain box. And then after a while, that box doesn't seem to fit. They might even give you the feeling that it was your own fault, like saying things like, "Oh, wow, are you really gay? You don't look gay." Well, not in this team. Because in this team, everybody has a story to tell. And questions are asked, but with the greatest of respect, and not from a place of blunt curiosity. And that makes a true difference in being comfortable feeling you, because I never had the feeling that I needed to defend myself or my family, even though my preferences and my home situation are quite different than the country they were born in. So I've always been a minority in the Netherlands, but never because of my nationality. But when I tell people about my current team, and that I'm not even outnumbered, but sometimes I was the only Dutchie in the team, people sometimes frown and ask me questions like, "Don't you miss working with other Dutchies?" Or "Don't you find it strange that you have to speak English the whole day while working for a Dutch company?" Well, the simple answer is no, because I really feel at home around this group of people. I've learned so much from hearing all these stories that I really think I've grown as a person because of it. And I feel actually privileged to work in such a diverse environment. So for me, diversity is not only in your gender or your skin color or the country you were born into. It's a story that defines you. And everyone is diverse in their own unique way. And telling these stories is what's important. And the more stories you hear, the more differences you see, and the more normal it becomes to hear about these differences. So then diversity becomes the norm and not the exception. Thanks for listening. Next up is Kate.
Thank you, Dominique. It's my turn. Hi, everyone. My name is Kate. I was born in a country that you most probably didn't know about a few months ago. And most likely you'd ask me if it's part of Russia, but it's not. Or if perchance you'd heard about this country, you would recall the fact that our president is last dictator of Europe. It was said in documents, Therese, which is permanent for 26 years, known for his extremely patriarchal views and sexist statements. I'm talking about Belarus, and I'd love my country to be known in a different way. But still, I finished school, college, university. I started working, became senior engineer, bought a car, relocated to the Netherlands, bought an apartment, took a dog, got married. A lot has changed in my life. However, our president stays the same. Social focus and country strategy haven't changed for a long time. They say the main goal for women is to get married and give birth, but not to do self-development or career. Be a lady, they said. I chose different paths, which I sometimes have to defend. I'm trying to not talk about politics here. However, the situation affected me, my family, my friends, so I just can't stop thinking about it. I hope it will change because it must change. I started quite early at musical school. I was playing piano. We had 5 boys and 15 girls in the class. But I love math, so I listened to my heart and continued at college studying programming. It was the opposite, 4 girls and 17 boys. I was on both not diverse sides, and both are not ideal, but still doable. So who am I now? I'm a front-end engineer with more than 7 years of experience. I'm 25 years, and it's pretty easy to calculate that I started at 18. I became senior when I was 21. Too young, isn't it? Right. Normally in the West, it's impossible. So I looked like a trainee by default, not an expert. And I had to challenge this assumption every interview to gain authority and prove my experience. Once I even had to do intense makeup to hide my ages up. And I would prefer not to fight against my age. But it made me stronger and good in makeup. How I did end up here? I worked for a Dutch project as a technical lead on offsite position located in Minsk. And I did many business trips to Amsterdam. During a year, I traveled 5 times from 2 to 4 weeks each. Shortly, they proposed me to relocate. And I said yes to new experience living in a different country. So it was never my goal. I decided to try for 1 year and fixed contract. Later, shortly, I signed permanent and stayed a bit longer to explore new things, cultures, countries, and people, of course. Speaking about women here and there, it's our main topic, right? I tell one story that happened to me recently. One day, I traveled from Haarlem, the best city in the Netherlands, to Leiden. In the middle of journey, I received a tire pressure error. So I stopped at a gas station looking how to fix it. In Belarus, there would be a lot of men willing to help, but no one here. Why? Maybe because women used to be strong and do everything on their own. So I bought additional insurance and now I'm fit. I was lucky to choose the profession and company that I love. Now I work for a great customer that is ING in the best diverse team. And I think the more we have in difference, the more normal we are, as all our imperfections are perfect. And here I need to say hi to John Legend. I'm happy I managed to follow my path, and I wish all the same. Especially now, my fingers crossed for my birthplace. Thank you, Vikram. It's your turn.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for the great story. Hi, my name is Vikram. I'm a product owner with Team One. So for my introduction, I was born in Mumbai. I grew up in the Middle East. I did my engineering and started the first few years of my career in India. I came to the Netherlands to pursue a career in research and computer science, but I kind of changed my mind, and then I joined business school and joined ING. In terms of diversity, I have a very simple perspective. There are, it basically, there are some people who feel like they're inside and a bunch of people who feel like they're on the outside. It sounds very simple, but it took a long time for me to appreciate and accept this. And because of my experience, I've felt like an outsider, and it's a feeling that I'm familiar with. Due to my moving around, I was never Indian enough, and without a favorite football team, I'm probably not Dutch enough. With my education, I was never enough of an engineer, and now I'm probably not enough of a banker. So it's a funny feeling. But after 20 years of living outside, when I returned to my home country, when I moved back to India, it was the first time I felt like somewhat of an insider. The first time in my life I felt this. But more time, I realized, what it also feels like to be on the outside. And now that I'm a bit older, I've had more conversations, more experiences. I know that when people are on the outside, they feel left out, they feel undervalued, and they also feel without opportunity. And I'm not talking about the opportunity to be the prime minister or the CEO. I'm talking about opportunities to be heard, opportunities to make an impact, opportunities to contribute to the organization you work with, the family you care about. And that's why inclusion is a key way to address this feeling. And inclusion is really important to make diversity work. And inclusion should be without compromising your values, and inclusion should appreciate your unique perspective, just like the great stories we've heard from so many people today. Because we can't all be the same, but we can all work very hard to understand each other. And for this, I also wanted to share a short story with you. A story about a very simple behavior, but a simple behavior that makes people feel like outsiders. This is a story about interrupting each other. While it seems so harmless, when we do it, it makes people feel bad in general. It's something that my wife pointed out to me, someone who I care about. And more and more when I noticed it was more, happening from men towards women. I personally don't think there's any bad intention in it, but, I'm a guy, so it's easy for me to say. But it does really affect the person who's being interrupted. And once it happens long enough, it can leave a long-lasting feeling of not being heard. And that feeling is way more important than the intention of the person who's interrupting. The interesting thing is we also notice this within our squad. Maybe it's not because of the male-female ratio, but also people have different characteristics. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts. But to address this so that everyone felt heard and everyone felt valued, what we said is that we should be able to say, please allow me to complete, or say, please allow so-and-so to complete. So in all honesty, I'm one of these people who maybe spoke a lot, and maybe my colleagues can agree or disagree. But in the beginning, when someone told me this, it felt tough to hear. But it was a learning experience for me. I learned that it's not about my feelings or my ego being hurt when someone asks me not to interrupt, but it's about letting the other person feel that they're being heard and that they have something valuable to contribute. Something valuable to contribute to the success of our squad and the success of our team. This is a great lesson for me at work, but also at home. In the beginning, it felt like I was compromising something. It made me feel uncomfortable. But change and progress always feels uncomfortable in the beginning. But honestly, feeling uncomfortable is not a reason why we shouldn't change. So after this, I want to take some time to see if you have any questions or comments. There's a 20-second delay. So, let the questions keep coming, and we'll answer them. And if there are no questions, we can move on to the next section, which is Dominique.
Okay, Thanks, Vikram. Yeah, I don't see any questions at this point, so I will just continue. If you do have a question, please leave them in the comment box, and we'll discuss them after this part. And Fee has something to say as well after this, so we'll respond then. Yeah, so I would now like to share some insights and learnings we gathered over the years. So when you gather a group of people together and you want them to successfully work together, you need to be aware that every single person will have their own background. And it's not only obvious things, right? Like nationality and skin color or gender. So even if all team members are from the same country, they can have different values based on things like religion, culture, socioeconomic background, sexual orientation, and disabilities. And all of these factors are forming how a person acts or responds to different situations and circumstances. Well, not only in a private situation, but definitely also in a working environment, because especially in working in agile teams as we do, the amount of time you spend together is immense. So the values and character of a person may affect how this person acts in large group meetings and in one-on-one contact. If someone easily opens up and voices their opinion, or that they rather stay silent and do as they're told instead of what they think is the best solution. If a person is silent, it doesn't mean that they have nothing to say. So you can imagine that these issues can have a huge effect on stuff like work productivity and of a team, and of the quality of the work they produce, and not to mention the effect it has on work pleasure and happiness of the employee. It's okay, this is clear, but how do you know all this stuff, and how do you translate this for your team? Because the information I'm referring to is for a large part private information. It's information a person might not want to share, or at least not on the first day. Would be nice, right? Walking into a room saying, "Hey guys, I'm Dominique, I'm gay, nice to meet you." Well, that never happens. So, but it doesn't make a difference really, because even if you know all this information, what are you going to do with it? Are you aware of all the differences? And do you recognize people for who they really are? And don't only look at others, also have a look inside and think about all the preset thoughts you might have yourself, because they will stand in the way of progress. I always saw myself as a pretty open-minded person, but I was confronted with my own biases a lot during this process, and also with my own behavior in the group that could really use some improvement. But I was also confronted with the amount of effort it took to be really inclusive. Because these solutions, we all know, right? Like getting to know each other offline, team building activities, going through the rituals, etc. But sometimes the solutions aren't that easy. And inclusivity and diversity gets in the way of group maturity and speed of conversation. And that's something I really needed to get adjusted to, because to be honest, I can be a bit impatient sometimes. But I noticed that if you take extra time in meetings to make sure that everybody has a voice and that people can actually finish their sentences, the extra time that takes is definitely worth it, because it's very good for team spirit and for the quality of the work you deliver together. You can really empower people and use their strengths. But there's also a flip side, of course, because giving one person a voice also means that you might need to confront those who speak a little bit too much, or put someone else in the lead for once. So honesty and trust are words that came up a lot during our retros, to be honest. And we had interesting discussions about their meaning and what that means for you as a person. And sometimes there can be really uncomfortable situations. So we had a team event once to start on board some new team members. And we wanted to give them an onboarding Team 1 style and play a game that we've been playing for 2 years already. So during the first round, one of our team members, new team members, said that she actually didn't really like the game. So what do you do then? Do you ignore the question and think, well, it's 10 against 1, never mind? Or do you stop the game and disappoint the majority? Well, the decision was made to stop the game and just do some drinks. But it wasn't an easy choice. But it's the only right choice to make if you want to be truly inclusive. And it's through these uncomfortable situations where the real growth takes place. Because that's when you live up to the inclusivity promise you made as a team. Within a team, it's not about the majority, it's about a place for everyone. So for us, team agreements were our starting point, and living up to them can be harder than you think. But for me, it was definitely worth it. And Fee will tell you all about the team agreements now.
Thank you, Dominique, for the very nice learning. To sum up, I would like to share some final takeaway, like things that you can try to experiment with your organization as of tomorrow. So I start with the very simplest thing, that we speak one language in a team. It can be anything, you know, if you prefer Dutch, if you prefer English, depending on how comfortable people are in your team. But speaking one language also during coffee break, during lunch break, chit chat, or after work hours is really keep bringing people together and give everyone the sense of belonging to the organization and to the team. Maybe you can go a step further if you can do like a language exchange between different members of the team. And in the past, we also sometimes has like Tuesday Dutch day, so you would speak at coffee break only Dutch for people who want to learn. Or you can try with some other languages you think is very fun, and maybe Mandarin or something similar. And the second part that we think that you could try is that we always keep like common time when we take a break for lunch. So it's 11:45. And there we would ask everyone in our team to join in. Maybe you are in a meeting, maybe you were checking your phone, maybe you are in the toilet, but we would call for everyone so that we can all have lunch together. Half of us is vegetarian, so we would go for places that you either can have vegetarian food or you can eat your lunch that you cook and bring from home. So one time during my birthday, I have to bring some cake and sweet and such. Then I got to know that there are some Indian colleagues who eat everything, so, and also drinks, and then also Indian colleague who doesn't drink but eats everything, and there's Indian colleague who doesn't drink, no meat, and then also there's one who doesn't drink, no meat, no eggs. So it's really a lot of diversity, which I really cannot imagine. So to go for the safe option, I pick some pie for people who eat everything, and then just some biscuits and some no eggs vegan biscuits for people who really got a strict diet. So yeah, that's something that you should also think in your head when you have something like an event with team. Just a thought. And the third point, that when we have new members, especially during Corona time now, it's very, very important to have a session that we get to know each other. It doesn't have to be physical nowadays, but you can have like online session like we had with my small team, that we would do a game event, or we can try a very like interactive session that you can think of. One example that I'd done a few months ago is that we would make like a riddle, and then you guess the object, and then you have to take a selfie from home with that object, and then the one who sent it the fastest got the point. Or we can even play werewolf online, just have a camera and then someone as the moderator. So a lot of things you can think of to keep bringing people together. We had one very, very great session before Corona, was last year in Arena, where we all go together and we talk about ourselves, what our value is in life, and what we cherish, and really different from how you think about your colleague, like something out of work context. There you really can see, like I got to know a beautiful picture of the kid of Dominique and her weddings. I can never dream of that, got invited to a lesbian wedding and see how it looks. So it's really, for me, is eye-opening. Many things, and I also know about one colleague who is very quiet, but turned out he is the big supporter of Indian openness in his own country. So something you can never think of or imagine, or they would not tell you when we just have in regular contact. So those options are nice. And pick a good location as well. Back then we had a beautiful view of the arena because ING is the supporter, so that was great. And then the last point, which could be a little bit uncomfortable, that in a team you always have people who like very vocal, like me, keep talking and nonstop, and then you have people who are like, I'm gonna sit and wait and see, and then maybe I don't get to talk, maybe it need more time for me to open up, or important, maybe I'm afraid of saying something wrong, and that happened a lot. So how do you help including those people into it? This is also very important. So we learn to listen to each other, important not to interrupt each other when they're speaking. If the organizer is there and then they notice someone is not speaking and haven't speak up yet, they would say, okay, Miss X, please, what do you think? So that at least they can have this podium to think about, to say what they think. Maybe they say, I agree with everything we say, it's fine, but your opinion is heard. And then you will feel more comfortable next time to be involved in discussion, just like that. And often we also see people who talk a lot, doesn't let anyone else say something. And then you need to actually tell them to, okay, maybe someone else want to chip in and want to voice their opinion, and let's do that. And if the discussion becomes really heated, we can say, okay, maybe you can take it offline and have a one-on-one conversation where we carry on with the next topic, so to keep our agenda. There's a certain thing that you can do to keep the balance between your team meetings, especially now online. Maybe some people are sleeping or just taking coffee. So in the morning stand-up, sometimes we would call name by name, just like when you are at class. So okay, you need to give feedback and you don't know when you will come. So it's also a nice surprise just to wake up people in the morning without coffee. So we hope those suggestions can be useful for you, that you can try and apply with your team as of tomorrow. Some last minute Q&A if there's anything coming.
So we have a couple of questions. So I think, Dominique, do you want to take the first one? This question is, I think, one of these interesting questions we all see in ING. It's from Bhavna. It's you said the whole day you speak English, but I still see ING looking for Dutch speakers. Every new job says fluent in Dutch. I think this is a very interesting one. And Dominique, do you want to go for it?
Sure. I see it in the screen now. So I'm not sure what jobs you're looking for, but I do know that in engineering, usually, being fluent in English is enough. But for marketing jobs, Dutch does come in handy because you need to write or read Dutch text as well. So for CGEs like me, normally Dutch is asked. We actually work at the Digital Tribe. So there are actually English-speaking CGEs in our tribe. That's the answer. So I'm not sure which jobs you were looking for, but for engineering, usually English is enough. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Dominique, for that answer. There is also one more question. Maybe we can all add on a little bit to it. So Lisbeth asked, commented, great story. How do you keep up the team spirit and learn each other's stories while working remote? I think for me personally, one of the experiences, this specific moment where we kind of push each other to, I guess, be vulnerable and express ourselves, and team members and our squad listens. And so we try our best to share. I think there is one event that Fee talks about is every year we begin with sharing what our yearly goals are, and whether it's personal, whether it's organizationally, whether it's with the squad, and if we can get our personal values and personal goals alongside our organizational goals and organizational values, we create an environment that's safe. This is something we've had, I think, 2 agile coaches in the last 3-4 years, and they both actually mentioned the exact same thing. It's something that I believe was controversial with our squad in the beginning, but I think it's a part we wouldn't replace. But I definitely want to hear from maybe V or Kate, Dominique about this.
Yeah, I can add something. I think it was the event you're mentioning, like voicing your personal goals or your organizational goals. It's one of those uncomfortable situations I was talking about because, you really need to, in Dutch we say, go with the billen bloot. But it creates this environment of trust. And actually, if you look at the organizational goals, you can then really use the squad as a vehicle of, reaching those goals. And also we can then say, okay, please, you can take this subject, or you can take this action, because this will help you grow and this will help you reach those goals. And then you get this group sense as well.
I may add to something. So normally working from home, you can feel like the team spirit is getting a little bit down, and then you performance-wise a bit, someday you don't feel like doing it. So it's something that we notice, and it's just human. So you really cannot avoid these kind of things. But we have a group chat, which not about work maybe, but it's just like, we put a sunny picture. We talk about maybe someday people doesn't feel right, they was a bit sick, or maybe they need to take their kid to the daycare, or maybe take their husband to a hospital, or maybe a pet has a tragic end, and this kind of thing. So we say these things that happen to us daily, and then try to feel. Oh, sorry for my cat. So we try to involve each other into our life, and then spend a little bit of time in the beginning of the stand up to have some chit chat. You really need to put effort on reaching out to people when you are not physically together. But just some thought here and there, and even funny jokes. All the time I crack a lot of jokes because I think that help brighten the mood. Just to bring it up a little bit. But I think understanding and try to cater for house situation, and your health situation is also quite something you can do. My boss recently started a yoga session for his team members. So we would spend 50 minutes every day and do some shoulder and neck stretching together. It looks very silly, but I think it helps. Or maybe you can try something like that to invite your team.
Yeah, I also may add one more tip. We used to have morning coffee with the team in the office. But then, especially with Dominique, we had even sweets on our spring change day. By the way, my dog also wanting to be on YouTube. He's jumping. All right, so and now we are trying to do digitalization of all our routine. And recently we had digital coffee with Dominique, so that also may help.
And I think you should share the screen with your pets and kids, because that always lightens the mood, right?
The pet, yes. Kids. We will see. I don't know. Who's getting a bit bigger?
It's getting bigger. But I think, Dominique, do you have something to add? Otherwise, I think our time is going to be up soon.
I don't see any new questions either, so.
Great. I think
Wow,
Mariam
guys.
and Katsiaryna.
Hi, wow, guys, what a stories. Oh my God, I'm so
Very
impressed.
inspiring.
Very inspiring. And it made me think of my own. I'm also not originally from the Netherlands. I'm from Afghanistan, living here for 30 years, married to a Dutch guy. So I think everybody has his own story, right? And I'm very happy that I heard yours, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vikram, Dominic, Kate, really loved it. And the little small, beautiful dog. Oh, she's so cute. And we saw your cat, Fee, so that's also very nice. Very cozy here. Everyone at home, thank you so much for joining us today. We have, of course, 2 more days to go, tomorrow and Thursday. You can watch this talk back on YouTube. You just can go back to this talk, and you can also watch the one from yesterday. It was also very interesting and very inspirational talks yesterday. And hopefully we see you back tomorrow.
I do see that we have one more question.
Oh, coming up.
So, are you guys still here?
Yeah, we're still here.
Hi.
Yes.
Sorry, it's from Michael. Dominique, do you mind or does anyone mind if I start with this one?
Yes.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Great. Though, Micah, I think the interesting one is that we should talk first. I mean, a lot of us are open, and I think by talking first and talking about real stories, you create an environment where it's safe. And I think everyone wants to share. I doubt this people maybe are afraid of sharing, but I don't think as human beings we don't want people to know our story. We always want people to understand us. I think with this team also, there was so many great learning moments, but it was only, I think, once we created the environment, shared a coffee with Dominique, or maybe had a beer around the corner, all those kind of moments kind of add up.
Yeah, I think if I might add something, it's also by leading by example, right? So if you take the first step, and maybe with one or two, then it's easier for the rest also to share. And for example, when we did PowerPoints with pictures, we made sure that either Vikram or I started, for example, so people can see that it's okay to share, a little bit of more private information or secrets, maybe. So I think this will help in making other people feel at home as well.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks again.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.